All right, welcome back to Calculated Risk on SaturdayGlory.com. I am Tyler Shoemaker. You can find me at TShoeIndex. This is Kelley Ford. You can find him at KFord Ratings. It's here finally. I know we said last time, we just got to get through this last episode of kind of preseason talk, of projection, whatever. This weekend we have actual football to watch. I'm excited, but before we get to that, we're going to do our Group of 5 conference picks. Who our numbers like to win each Group of 5 conference, as well as some contenders that might be in the mix there to win those. So Kelley, let's start in the AAC, dive right into it. So my numbers have UTSA as the AAC champ, which we talked about on a previous episode. It's kind of funny because we have, even though we do kind of a similar exercise with our ratings, we've definitely come to different conclusions, particularly on UTSA. So anxious to hear your thoughts and what your model thinks about UTSA.
Yeah, UTSA, I mean, they're an interesting team for me. I see you've got them picked here to win the American. For me, they actually don't even make the American Conference Championship game. I've got, based on my numbers, SMU and Tulane getting to that game. SMU with a 49% chance to make it and Tulane a 46%. UTSA, for me, has a 35% chance to make the American Athletic Championship game. That is the third best behind SMU and Tulane. In the projected standings, they're about a half game behind SMU and Tulane. If I'm looking at UTSA's schedule, it's not the most difficult, especially within the conference. They do have to go to Tulane at the end of the year. That could be a very big game with a spot in that conference championship game on the line. My numbers currently like Tulane in that game by about 5.5 points. They don't get SMU on the schedule this year, so could be bad, could be good, could be bad, depending on how many games they need to win or if they need a tiebreaker. But yeah, UTSA, they're interesting for me. Power rate number 54. Offense should be good. It's a top 40 unit. I have concerns about the defense. The number 79 in my numbers. So I'm looking at 8-4 is the most likely record. I just have them as the third favorite in the American. So I'll be talking about them in my contenders next, Tyler. But I know they're your favorite.
Yeah. I'm now I'm uncomfortably high on them after finalizing the numbers and hearing our conversation about it. I'm going to roll with it again. As we say, the numbers are the numbers. I am very curious. I definitely will have my eye on UTSA this year. So the interesting thing here in the American, though, I do have Tulane and SMU are my next two teams. So our numbers aren't far apart as far as kind of who's in the mix. We just kind of have different teams on top. So moving right along, we will go to Conference USA here, where we've got another discrepancy. My numbers like Liberty here to win Conference USA. I actually, spoiler, gave a Liberty win total out in my column this week at vcent.com, so you can check that out to see where I'm at on the Liberty win total over there. But so I've got them 65th in the country, but 10th in the G5. So they're a top 10 G5 team, and as we talked about, Conference USA, very weak. Liberty has the worst strength of schedule in the country by my numbers. So should be a good first season for Coach Jamie Chadwell there at Liberty.
Liberty has the easiest schedule in the country by my numbers as well, Tyler. So I'm with you there. My pick's actually Western, though. I like Western Kentucky in this conference. I have a 73% chance they make the conference championship game. Liberty's at a 53% chance. So they are the two favorites. My numbers would like Western at home in that game because, again, the winner here in Conference USA, the team with the most conference wins in the regular season, is going to host the conference championship, much like the American, which I didn't mention. That's why I right now have it as a pick'em between SMU and Tulane, because my numbers are saying SMU has a 0.1 more win total. If Tulane's the home team in that game, I'm going to favor Tulane. But if it's SMU, it's going to be a pick'em for me. But yeah, I've got Western. I've got them by 5.5 in this game. They actually play Liberty during the year. Of course, you play everyone in Conference USA. And I have Western as a 5.5 point favorite at home. Jacksonville State and Sam Houston ineligible for the conference championship game as they transition from the FCS ranks. So this is a 9-team league with 7 teams eligible. Liberty and Western, the top two for me. And I'm going to go with Western. I have this offense best in the conference, 53rd nationally. The defense sub 100, but it's still fourth best in the conference. So average win total for Western is about 8.3, Liberty's 8.5. So I do have Western as the better team, power rated number 73, while Liberty is 86. But because that easier schedule we mentioned, I expect Liberty to have, on average, more wins. Still think Western's going to be the favorite to host that game, and I would like them by 5.5 in that championship.
Yeah, the interesting thing for me here, as I'm looking at my numbers on Liberty, when I think of Liberty, and especially you think of Coach Jamie Chadwell, like I just pictured this like high flying offense and not much defense. I guess kind of Coastal Carolina did that to me. But looking at my numbers here, I've got Liberty as the 17th ranked offense in G5, but the 13th ranked defense. So I actually have their defense higher in G5 than their offense. So I'm curious to see how that plays out for them this year. Any other notes here on Conference USA before we move on?
Nope, that sounds good to me. Should be a 2-horse race, I think, in this one.
Yep. I think we can definitely agree on that. So in the MAC action, we all love it. Extremely hard for guys like us to get a handle on it, especially when the MAC teams start playing each other on Tuesday nights and all hell breaks loose. And I've learned my lesson to stop betting MAC unders on weeknights because it just does not, it doesn't happen for me. So in the MAC, I do have Toledo as the favorite. But again, the MAC is just a jumbled mess. Toledo just kind of happened to be less of a mess. And kind of like Toledo to me is kind of like the Texas of the MAC, where it's like, if you're not going to do it this year with Jason Candle, like they've been close. They've had, in my opinion, the best team in the MAC multiple times and just haven't been able to get over the hump. Like if they don't do it this year, I don't really know when they're going to do it.
Yeah, Toledo, they're my pick as well. And they are a team, as you said, that I've had, as the pick in recent years and haven't always lived up to that. Toledo's the best team in the MAC for me, though. I've got them power rated number 68. The next closest is Ohio out of the East, and I have them at 89. Those are my two picks to make it to Detroit in the conference championship game. My numbers right now at that neutral site would favor Toledo by about 4 points. I have a 54% chance that Toledo wins the West, a 45% chance that Ohio wins the East. So yeah, Toledo for me, they are the clear choice. As I'm looking at, their team graphic that I have up on the website, power rated number 68. The offense is number 69. The defense is number 72. So a very balanced team. That's number one overall offense and defense in the MAC conference. It's the third easiest schedule in the entire country by my numbers. They face the third easiest collection of opposing FBS offenses this year, the 10th easiest collection of opposing FBS defenses. So my numbers are really high on Toledo relative to their competition. There's only one game all year in which my numbers view Toledo as an underdog, and that is right out of the gate in week 1, 9.5 point underdogs at Illinois, an Illinois team that has a really strong defense by my numbers. 25% chance to win that game. If they can somehow find a way to get past that, I'll have them favored every other game the rest of the way. I have a 30% chance that Toledo wins 10-plus regular season games. They are the clear-cut favorite in the MAC, but that hasn't always meant in the past that you're actually going to win that conference. But the numbers do support them here as we start 2023.
Yeah, I'm with you. That game, that week 1 game at Illinois is interesting to me. I give them, my numbers have them with an 18% chance to win that game. So, it's looking bleak there, but we'll see what Illinois is with a new quarterback. See if Burt can keep it going there with Illinois. But let's keep it going here and head out to the Mountain West, where I've got Fresno State as the Mountain West champion and the highest rated team in the Mountain West. But this is another discrepancy we have here. So this is good. This is great content for the people, where it's not just, we're just agreeing with each other the whole show. We actually disagree quite a bit, especially on these G5 teams. So what are your numbers like here in the Mountain West?
Yeah, for me, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about Fresno State, because for me, it's pretty clear-cut Boise State. I've got Boise power rated number 49, a 60% chance to make the conference championship game. Fresno State is my number 2, power rated 67 with a 36% chance to make it there. My numbers would favor Boise at home in that game by about 7.5 points. If we're looking at Boise, they have to go on the road to Fresno State during the regular season. They also get Air Force at home, the last game of the year. That should be a tough one for Boise State as well. But I've got Boise, the defense should be really good. power rated 36 on the defensive side of the ball. That's second best in the conference. The offense is 61, but that's best in the conference. So defense better than offense, kind of league wide for me in the Mountain West this year. There's only 3 games all year in which my numbers make the Broncos an underdog. 2 of them are by a field goal or less. The 3 games would be at Washington in week 1. That's going to be a tough one for them. That's where I think game day should have gone. I can understand they're going to North Carolina, South Carolina. I get it. It's a rivalry game. It's in an NFL stadium, though. I would have liked to see that one on campus after having not had college football for 8 months, but That's okay. They're going to be 12-point underdogs there by my numbers. Week 2, again, I've got them as an underdog, 2 points, but UCF comes to town. That's going to be a really, really exciting game. And then the third and final game that I view them as a, quote, underdog, it's actually 50-50. I have it as a straight pick 'em at Memphis in week 5. Those are the only 3 games that my numbers don't have Boise State as the favorite. So I do expect Boise State to make it to the conference championship game. They have been the best team in the Mountain West on average in any given year for, going on 2 decades now. So Boise State for me is the pick, with Fresno State also contending there to make the conference championship game.
Yeah, the Fresno State is a team that, like, this is another one of these G5 teams, kind of like UTSA, where it's like I looked and looked and looked at the numbers because, like, when I did my initial kind of preliminary ratings, Fresno State was so high, and I was like, okay, like, what am I missing or what am I overvaluing here? And like I could not drop their rating. Like, there was no justification in the things that I look at to drop them. And so they play Purdue here in week 1. That line opened around 7, and I actually project Fresno as a 4-point favorite in that game. And that line is now down to Purdue -4. So like the line is getting hammered in favor of Fresno State, which is, not foolproof, but it is a good indicator that, maybe Fresno State was initially undervalued in the market. I've got them with the 7th best offense in the G5 and the 4th best defense. So pretty balanced. In terms of the conference outlook, I've got them with 6.8 conference wins. Boise and Air Force both are right behind them, but I do have Fresno as the class of the Mountain West. And the interesting thing here, though, too, is as you're talking about how highly rated Boise is for you and how clear cut it is, my numbers actually really like Boise too. I've got Boise power rated, 6.2 points above FBS average. I've actually got them that the line on their Washington game is 15 right now, and my numbers make it like 8.5. So I'm still high on Boise State. It's just I'm like crazy high on Fresno. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out. Those 2 teams are gonna definitely have my interest all year.
Man, you got Fresno -4 on the road at Purdue. Wow, I got Fresno plus 6 is my projected line for that one. So we're 10 points off there. That's big. Yeah, you're definitely high on Fresno. I'll be curious. Let's see how that one plays out this year. Again, I like the Bulldogs. I got them number 2 in the conference, number 2 offense, number 3 defense. But yeah, we got to keep an eye on the Mountain West race for sure.
Yeah, I always have these games, particularly early in the season. Like I remember a couple years ago when Virginia Tech and North Carolina opened the season against each other. My numbers like Virginia Tech in that game. North Carolina was a 5-point favorite, and I kind of like coined this phrase, like, this is either my genius or jackass pick of the week. Like, I'm either going to look like a genius or I'm going to look like an idiot. So
that's awesome.
To me, week 1, Fresno State at Purdue is my genius or jackass game of the week, because I'm either going to look really good if Fresno wins, or I'm going to look really stupid if they get blown out. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But that's the fun thing about it. I'm willing to stick my neck out. Like, I could have easily like manipulated the numbers to make it closer to market, but like I always say, the numbers are the numbers. I let it ride, and I did take a close look, but it is what it is. So I'm looking forward to it. So wrapping up the G5 conference championship picks here in the Sun Belt, the Fun Belt, another huge discrepancy from the Kelley Ford ratings and the TSI. So I've got South Alabama in the Sun Belt. I've got them ranked 43rd overall in FBS, number 5 in the G5. I've got them with the number 10 offense in the G5 and the number 5 defense. So again, well balanced, but they're definitely going to ride their defense as they did last year. They continue to get better. I think this is the year that they win the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Troy. I do like South Alabama, but I'm going to go with Troy as the favorite in the West. They have a 42% chance to win the West. South Alabama for me at 30%. Troy for me, power rated number 63. That is the best in the Sun Belt Conference this year. Coastal Carolina coming out of the East. The East is a really jumbled mess for me. I've got Coastal with a 30% chance, App State 28, Marshall 25, and James Madison, who actually have power rated better than all of them, is ineligible for the conference championship, but they would certainly be in that mix if they were. But for me, the pick is Troy. And as I'm looking down their schedule or looking at their schedule, they're the best team in the Sun Belt by my numbers. They have the best defense, a defense that's really good, number 32 nationally by my numbers, an offense that's in the 80s, but that's still second best in the Sun Belt. There's only, as I look at Troy's schedule, one game in which I do not favor Troy currently, and that would be the game in week 2. They have to go to Kansas State. We saw Tulane go into Manhattan last year and get a win in week 1 or week 2, I think it was. And Troy's certainly going to be looking to do the same this year. But outside of that game, I favor Troy in every single other game, including all of their 8 Sun Belt games this year. They do have to play James Madison, but they get them at home. They do have to play South Alabama, of course, but they get them at home. They do have to play Louisiana, of course, but they get them at home. So a lot of these strong contenders that are on the schedule, they're getting at home. So I think that could be the difference here. Troy was one of my biggest overachievers last year, number 6 nationally in my overachiever list, winning 3.5 more regular season games than expected. So, I have a lot of good things to say about Troy, but this is going to be a really, really fun group of 5 conference race, probably the most fun conference race in the group of 5 for me to track, because there are a handful of legit contenders.
Yeah, this is probably our biggest discrepancy, because I've got Troy 3rd in the division. I've got them. So their defense is definitely the strength. I've got their defense about 3 points above FBS average, but the problem is, by my numbers, I've got their offense about 11 points below FBS average. So their power rating for me is -8. Indicating that they would be an 8-point underdog to the FBS average team on a neutral field. They do have a pretty weak strength of schedule at 101 strength of schedule rank, but I've only got them projected at 5.9 wins. I almost gave this out as a win total best bet this week. I didn't play it yet, pretty much because I was looking at your numbers too, and was like, okay, this is interesting. I'm very curious about this, because I mean they've been very good, but my numbers project a bit of a drop off here, some regression for them. So I am very curious how the Sun Belt unfolds. Of note here in the Sun Belt, I'll save that comment for our next segment here. Okay, so we've got our championship picks. Now let's get to some contenders that may be in the mix here in each of these conferences, and we've got several here. If you're watching on YouTube, we've got the graphic up. Follow us both on X, and we'll tweet this out as well, so you guys can see that there. But we got a lot of teams here in the mix. We wanted to show love, show respect to a lot of these teams. So we'll just touch on these briefly. So going back to the American, I've got Tulane and SMU in the mix, as Kelley already mentioned. Those are his conference title game participants. So we're kind of aligned there. Anything to add here on contenders for the AAC?
Yeah, I put in, like I did for the Power 5, anybody who has at least a 10% chance to make the conference championship game, I've included kind of in my, quote, contenders graphic, as you will. So the 3 teams we've already mentioned in the American. I also have Memphis, who's power rated number 60. They have a 31% chance, 5.4 conference wins on average. So that's just half a game behind my number 2 team, which is number 2 total, which is Tulane. And then also Florida Atlantic, ready if any of these contenders above them were to stumble. Power rated 75, 4.7 conference wins on average, 17% chance to make the conference championship game. It really is, for me, Tulane's the best team with a little bit harder schedule than SMU, which is why SMU's up there. Those are my 2 favorites, but UTSA and Memphis are certainly in that mix, and Florida Atlantic's ready to pounce if somebody slips up in front of them, or 2 teams slip up in front of them.
Let me ask you this real quick. While we're on the AAC, how many wins, if you've got it available, how many wins do you have Florida Atlantic with this year?
Florida Atlantic, on average, projecting 6.5 wins overall in the conference. That is 4.7. So 6.5 is what I'm projecting, with a 51% chance to win 7+.
Okay, so we're not far off there. I've got them at 5.7 wins, but that was another season win total that I was substantially lower on the market than. So I was curious what your number said on that. So we're not too far off there, a little less than a game. Okay, so moving on, we can just do it in order of the chart here if you're watching on YouTube. So in the Sun Belt, I've got App State and Marshall. I also have James Madison on the graphic. As Kelley mentioned, they're not eligible to actually win the conference or play in the conference championship game, but from a power rating standpoint, I did want to shout them out, and because I do have them, they would be in this mix if they were eligible. So I did want to shout them out. Appalachian State is a team that, in my preliminary ratings, had significantly lower. They just kind of have crept up since, as I continue to update the numbers since March. So they're I've actually got them as the number 7 team in the G5 right now. Most likely wins being most likely record 9-3 for them. I've got them as the 3rd best G5 offense and the 25th best G5 defense. So another team that I am interested in just because of the fluctuation in kind of how their power rating went in my numbers over the course of this year. What do you think about App State, and who else do you like here in the Sun Belt?
Yeah, App State's right in the mix. The East, like I said, that's going to be the more exciting of the two, I think. Not because they have the best teams, quote unquote, by the power ratings, but because it's the most competitive kind of just bunched up at the top. Coastal Carolina, my pick, only a 30% chance to make the conference championship game. App State right behind at 28%. Marshall right behind that at 25%. Those teams, Tyler, for those not looking at the graphic but listening on podcast, conference wins that I'm projecting on average: Coastal Carolina 5.0, App State 4.9, Marshall 4.8. Like those 3 teams are within 0.2 conference games. Any of those teams can easily win the East by my numbers right now. We're talking about fractions of games, couple decimal points of football points here or there. I also have Georgia Southern on the graphic because they have a 12% chance to make the conference championship game, but they, from a power rating standpoint, are significantly lower at number 98. Marshall, Coastal Carolina, App State, all in the mid-70s. So to me, that's the East. In the West, of course, Troy, I mentioned, is my favorite. South Alabama, your pick. I have them second with a 30% chance to make it behind Troy's 42. Louisiana and Southern Miss are in there. I got Louisiana power rated 92, Southern Miss 98. Louisiana 16% chance to make it to the conference championship game. Southern Miss 10%. So 5.7 projected wins for Troy, 5.3 for Alabama. I could go either way on those. Not going to argue too much. There is, about a game drop off then to Louisiana at 4.6 and Southern Miss right there at 4.2. So it's Troy, South Alabama in the West for me, with Louisiana and Southern Miss on the outside looking in. The East, it's Coastal, it's App, it's Marshall. James Madison would be in that mix if they were eligible. Those are the contenders with Georgia Southern. If they're able to beat, 2 of those 3 teams, they'll put themselves in a good position. I'm just not sure they're going to. But, man, I am really looking forward to the Sun Belt this year, in particular that East. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep, I'm with you on that. In the East, I've got App State power rated 5.5, Marshall 3.6, and then a slight drop to James Madison, who's right at FBS average, and then another slight drop before I get to Coastal. So the East is going to be super competitive. I've got all 4 of those teams with at least 4.5 conference wins projected. So I mean, it's going to be extremely competitive. So I'm with you. That'll be fun to watch. And I would be remiss. My dad and brother would kill me if I get through a Sunbelt segment and don't mention the Marshall Thundering Herd. So I do have them obviously in the mix there. I've got them with ranked number 9 in the G5. The problem with them, and the problem has been their offense. I think if they can get the run game going this year with Ali, they should be much better offensively. But I've got them as the 36th ranked offense in the G5. But I do have them with the number 1 defense in the G5. So again, they're going to lean on that defense. We'll see if the offense can come along and match that. If it does, they definitely will be right there in the mix for the East title. And moving on to the Mountain West, again, we already kind of touched on. I've got Boise State here. My numbers also really like Air Force. That was actually a win total play that I gave out this week. Their schedule is very bad, which obviously doesn't necessarily impact their conference title hopes, but just Air Force stock as a whole I'm buying right now because the schedule is pretty weak, and I do have them power rated relatively high. So I think that's a good combination for them. Who else do you like here in the Mountain West other than the teams we've already hit on?
Yeah, for sure. So Boise, Fresno are my picks, but Fresno they sneak in 36% chance to make the conference championship, 5.3 projected conference wins. Air Force 35% chance, 5.3 projected conference wins. So that to me, it's a very close race for number two. Then I do have a slight drop to San Diego State, 20% chance to make the conference championship, 4.7 projected. Wyoming right there, 19% chance, 4.6 projected conference wins, and San Jose State sneaks into the graphic with a 13% chance to make the conference championship game, 4.2 projected wins. So Boise sitting there at 6.1. That's why they're the favorite. Then there's a drop to Fresno and Air Force, both at 5.3. Another, half game plus drop. You get to San Diego State and Wyoming at 4.7, 4.6 respectively, and then it's San Jose State. So, like I said, Boise's my favorite. Fresno and Air Force, take your pick. Which one you think's going to get there? San Diego State, Wyoming, ready to make a move, and San Jose State probably needs quite a bit to go their way to make it there. But with a power rating of 93, they're not all that far away from that second grouping of teams, kind of that Air Force, San Diego State group. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. I expect Boise to take care of business, but definitely going to be some surprises, I think, in the Mountain West, because there seem to always be in that conference.
Yeah, and it looks like so we've got the same top five here in the Mountain West. Just the top two we've got flipped, but otherwise, pretty consistent here in the Mountain West for us. So that's honestly, as I was putting together my win total piece this week, I really liked Air Force. I looked at your numbers, saw that they were right there with mine. So that was the deciding factor in me pulling the trigger. When we're in alignment, I think that's probably a good indicator.
Tyler, I want all the credit when you use my numbers and it works, and I want none of the blame when you use them and they don't. All right, just so you're clear on what I'm looking for.
So just so everyone is aware, he's telling me right now to bet my mortgage on it. That's what I heard.
Yes, sir. And then don't blame me when the house is gone.
All right, going to the MAC here. Again, it is a cluster. Literally, if you're in the MAC, you got a chance to win it this year, pretty much. Unless you're like Akron. So quick hitters here. I've got Ohio, Buffalo, Miami of Ohio, Eastern Michigan, and Ball State all like in the mix, all power rated within 3 points of each other, 3.5 points of each other. So, it's just who's going to get it? Obviously this is why they play the games, but like the MAC is really just like who's going to play consistent enough to be able to pile some conference wins here. I don't have a strong take here one way or another on these. Like we said, I definitely think Toledo is the best. Ohio's probably right there next, and then after that, just take your pick. Kelley, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll start in the West, where Toledo's the clear-cut favorite, as I talked about. 54% chance to win the West, power rated 68, 5.9 average projected conference wins in an 8-game schedule. The number 2 team on that list for me, all the way down at 17% chance to win the West, power rated number 106, 4.5 average conference wins. 1.4 conference win projection difference in an 8-game conference schedule. That's a ton. So there's a big gap between Toledo and then I'm talking about Eastern Michigan there at number 2. NIU sneaks on 11% chance to win the West, power rated number 101. Central Michigan, 10% chance, power rated 107. So in the West, it's Toledo, and then I've got a group that are pretty far back. It's the East that I think is a 3-team race. It's going to be really exciting. Ohio, my favorite, as I mentioned, power rated 89, 5.5 average conference wins, 49% chance to make it. Miami, big rivals there, Ohio and Miami, battle of the bricks, number 2 in the East, power rated 95, 5.0 conference win, so a half game back from Ohio, 32% chance to make the conference championship game. And then I also have Buffalo, power rated 103, 4.5 conference wins on average projected, so a 1 game behind Ohio, but still within striking distance, 19% chance to make the conference championship game. The difference here in the East, Tyler, might just be in week 9, Ohio and Miami, they face off, and it's in Athens. It's at Peden Stadium, so that could be the difference here. If Miami is able to find a way to get that upset, I'm looking here, they do get Buffalo at home. So, that other team that I have on that, if Miami's able to win at Ohio, this all flips. I'm just not sure they're going to be able to, but we'll see. Action gets crazy, and that's why we love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at that game, looking at the Miami of Ohio game, I give Ohio a 66.8% chance to win that game at home. So again, I think we're pretty much in lockstep here as far as how this conference should go at the tip top. The middle is kind of a cluster. And then wrapping up here with Conference USA, I think we pretty much already covered this. It's a 2-horse race. It's Liberty and it's Western Kentucky. My number's like Liberty to win it. Kelley's likes Western Kentucky, and there's really no one else really in contention for me. Kelley, what do your numbers say about the rest of Conference USA?
Yeah, I would agree with that. At 73 and 53% respectively for Western and Liberty to make the conference championship, they are the favorites. For the sake of completion, I've got Louisiana Tech on the graphic, 31% chance, Middle Tennessee, 29% chance, and UTEP is on there with a 10% chance. 6.1 conference projected wins for Western, 5.5 for Liberty. The drop to Louisiana Tech and Middle Tennessee, they're both at 4.8. So, 0.7 conference games in an 8-game slate. That is significant. That is a good drop there. And with only 9 teams, like I said, in the conference and only 7 able to make it, I've got 5 on my contenders list that have at least a 10% chance. So that kind of just goes to show you the top 2 are the top 2, and then it gets pretty wide open, kind of like we talked about in the MAC as well. So, yeah, I don't expect any surprises in Conference USA. I've expected surprises, I think, almost across the board, with the exception of maybe Boise and Toledo from those conferences. But I don't expect surprises in Conference USA. If it's not Western and Liberty, I will be surprised at the end of the year. That's for sure.
Yep, same here. So I think that's going to do it for our G5 picks, which means we are officially in season. Programming note, just so you guys can kind of get in the cadence of how this show is going to go from here on out. On Monday, you'll be able to catch our week 0 recap. We'll talk about what happened the previous weekend. We'll be back on Thursday looking ahead to the upcoming weekend, and that'll be our rhythm throughout the season. So you guys can expect that on Mondays and Thursdays. Kelley and I will be here with you all season, bringing you the data-driven numbers and power ratings and projections. It's going to be a lot of fun. Having fun already through 2 weeks, and we haven't even played any football yet. So I'm very anxious to see the sicko game of the week, which is New Mexico State and UMass this weekend. I'm hyped for it. I don't know about you.
It's going to be amazing. I can't wait for live college football, Tyler. I'm right there with you. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait to dive into some of these games.
Yep, absolutely. Make sure you're reading our writers at SaturdayGlory.com. Checking out, we've got the daily show, the daily college football show. Obviously, catch us twice a week, and make sure you're following us on X. I am at TShoeIndex. Kelley is at K Ford Ratings. And until Monday, enjoy college football this weekend, and we will see you next time.